Hi all, my name is Gautam Begde and I welcome you to my YouTube channel Chatterbot. In today's video, we will be talking about a tool that I work extensively with for writing and practicing code. The name of this tool is Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Notebook is a tool that allows you to create and share documents with live code, images, text, and much more. So let's dive into today's video. So first, uh, let's look at the agenda for today's video. So we will go through a quick introduction of the Jupyter Notebook. We will look at the key features. We'll see how we can install Jupyter Notebook, and then we will get started with some of the basic functionalities of Jupyter Notebook. We will then cover some real-world use cases for using a Jupyter Notebook. And finally, we will talk about some misconceptions regarding Jupyter Notebook versus Jupyter Lab and how they are different. So here's a little bit of an introduction to the Jupyter Notebook. So Jupyter Notebook, as we just talked about a little earlier, is basically a web application for creating and sharing computational documents. So this is a tool which was created by Project Jupyter, which is a collection of open source tools for interactive computing and data science. And with the help of Jupyter Notebooks, users can create narratives that combine code, text, and multimedia. So we will now look at why exactly this is beneficial. So one of the key features of Jupyter Notebooks is that it is open source and completely free to use. It supports over 40 programming languages, including Python, R, Julia, and Scala. And you'll be amazed to know that the name Jupyter comes as a is a short, or it's made of the words Julia, R, and Python, which are the first languages that the Jupyter Notebook supported. Also, once you have written your code, or you have written your or basically your notebook, you can actually share this notebook using email, Dropbox, GitHub, and Jupyter Notebook viewers. And with the help of these notebooks, you can also create interactive outputs like HTML, images, videos, latex, and custom MIME types. So the first thing that we look at is how do we actually install Jupyter Notebooks on your machine. So before we go to the actual installation steps, there are some very basic prerequisites. The one thing to note is that you can use a Jupyter Notebook on Windows 7, on Windows, Mac, or Linux as well. For Windows, you would need an operating system 7 or newer. Then you need at least a 1 GB of RAM and a disk space of 1 GB to install and run your Jupyter Notebook. And then when we come to software, you need a Python library of 3.3 and above, and a pip, which is basically a Python package manager to install and run Jupyter Notebooks. So when we go to the installation, we have to run a few commands. So I am using the pip method for installing and using Jupyter Notebook. There are some other ways as well, which we will cover. The one thing I want to know, want you to note is that if you are using the Python or the Python pip manager, then you would obviously need your Python to be installed, and that's one of the prerequisites for this particular installation. So once you've run the two commands we mentioned earlier, you will see that you are navigated to a screen uh, which looks a little bit like this, and this is the your local instance of your Jupyter Notebook. To actually access a Jupyter Notebook from here, you should go ahead and click New, and then select Python 3 IPy kernel, and we'll talk briefly later about what a kernel is. So once you do that, you will see a screen like this, which looks like a notebook. And over here, you will see several options like File, Edit, View, Insert, Cell, Kernel, and Help. So this layout is almost like an Excel worksheet. And then what you can do is you can straight away start writing code on this notebook, and let's see how. So I'm trying to write. So mind you, we are currently in Python kernel. So I'll write my first Python code, which is print hello world, and then I'll go ahead and click the run button, and then you'll see that the code has been executed and the output has been shared on this Jupyter notebook itself. So now you'll see that you can and now you'll see that a new cell has opened where I can write my next line of command as well. So you can write your command line by line and also run this line by line. So that's one of the big advantages of a Jupyter notebook. Then of course, while you can write notes, while you can run codes, you can also switch to something called as a markdown. So markdown is basically something that you can use to create lists or just write notes or explanations or even insert images. So if you write, this is my first line of Python code, and then if you run it, so then this is an explanation which gets added. So you will have you'll see that along with your code, you can also add explanations, which makes it very easier for somebody who may be following this notebook, or for yourself as well. So if you're writing some complex code and you want to write explanations, you can do it over here as well. So then I mean, we've talked a little bit about code and markdowns, and then because we said that a Jupyter notebook can also be shared, you have options to um, download and share this document as in all the formats like HTML, Markdown, Notebook, PDF, and then so on and so forth. So this makes it very easy to actually save this or share this notebook. Then one thing which I want to talk about is a kernel. So imagine a kernel as the brain of this notebook. So whenever you are writing this a command, the kernel is managing the environment. It's taking the instructions and then it is interacting with the backend, and then it is returning you the output on the UI. So the kernel is like the brain of this particular notebook. So, so we've talked about how to access a Jupyter notebook. What are some of the navigations available? How do you write your first line of code? What is a markdown cell? How do you save? How do you save a document? And what is a kernel? So now let's look at the uh, other agenda of this presentation. Yeah, and then let's yeah. So now that we understand what a Jupyter notebook is, what can you do with a Jupyter notebook? Let's examine few of the real world use cases for a Jupyter notebook. So first one that we have over here is creating educational content. And based on what you saw on how a Jupyter notebook looks, how you can write live code, add comments, put diagrams. It is easy to understand why this notebook can be used to teach a technical concept or even a programming concept. So you can write, say for example, you can write your a programming code, then you can write explanations and then share it with your audience, and they will be able to understand what you're trying to teach, or yeah. That's why this is one of the major use cases of a Jupyter notebook. Then second is of course to learn and practice code, because you can write a line of code, you can run it there and then. You don't have to write the full code and run it. So it helps you actually pinpoint what the issue is, and this improves your coding as well. Then we talked about how we can share a notebook across teams and projects. So this makes collaboration easier, along with the fact that you are able to also explain what has been written in the notebook using markdowns. So it makes collaboration easy, and And the last is presenting and sharing data science projects. So data science projects are usually complex. They start with data collection, data cleaning, data processing, then writing code to on that data to make meaningful to do a meaningful analysis and draw insights, visualizations. So all of these steps in this data science project journey can be encapsulated on the notebook. It can be shared with the audience so they can appreciate and understand all that has been done from the inception to the final stage of a data science project. Then um, the last point that we wanted to cover is Jupyter Notebooks versus Jupyter Labs. So whenever you try to look for Jupyter Notebooks, you do get a lot of references on Jupyter Lab. So Jupyter Lab and Jupyter Notebook are different, while both of them are offerings from the same Jupyter project. Jupyter Lab is basically an IDE, which is a integrated development environment for notebooks, code, and data, and it provides a flexible interface to configure and arrange workflows in data science, machine learning, etc. It's basically like a next generation product. So Project Jupyter first came with notebook, and then uh, then they introduced lab. So I would suggest that if somebody just wants to um, work with practicing code, they should start with Jupyter Notebook and then graduate to Jupyter Lab if needed. So with that, that's kind of a wrap on today's video. We looked at Jupyter Notebook, its key features, how to install, how to write basic code on a Jupyter Notebook, how to share a Jupyter Notebook, real world use cases for Jupyter Notebook, and then some small differences between Jupyter Notebook and Lab. So I hope you found this video interesting, and I encourage you to go and try download Jupyter Notebook and practice some code on it. Till such time, happy coding and have a nice day. Thank you and keep watching.